Hey everybody, welcome back. This week we're going to be making one of the summertime staples around this house, farmhouse pasta salad. This dish is a great side dish to barbecued meats or fish. It's great with a burger or even just on its own as a meal, which is what we're going to be doing with it tonight. It's pretty hot here today, so getting dinner ready without heating up the oven or really cooking too much is great. I call this a farmhouse pasta salad because it's full of whatever vegetables happen to be in season, fresh from your garden or from the store, and it's super versatile with lots of different options for whatever you happen to have on hand. It's also got an awesome honey balsamic dressing that works on any salad, but is ridiculously good on this pasta salad. So let's jump into it. First thing we're going to do is make the honey balsamic dressing. Like I said, this is a very versatile dressing that works with all kinds of salads. It's fairly sweet from the honey, which works really well against the salty feta cheese and all the other things we've got going on in this dish. And I'm going to microwave that briefly just to make it more liquid. I'm going to add some oil in here. You could use olive oil or avocado oil. Today I'm just using some canola oil. And then you want to add some balsamic vinegar, about half as much as the oil you added. Now I'm using some fairly fancy white balsamic vinegar here that I have, but you can use whatever balsamic you've got. And then in goes the honey that we melted, along with some salt, pepper, garlic powder, and oregano that I'll just grind up between my fingers here a little bit to release some of the flavors. And then you want to whisk this up really well and set it aside. Now earlier I cooked up about 500 grams or a pound of Rotini pasta noodles. You can really use any type of short pasta for this, but I do like how a spiral-shaped pasta like this catches the dressing and kind of holds onto it. So I cooked this slightly less time than the package recommended, so it's fairly al dente, and that just means it can absorb some of the dressing without getting too soft or mushy later. And to that I'm going to add some green peas. These were frozen, so I quickly microwaved them a little bit to thaw them out. And then I'll add in a can of corn that's been drained. To boost up the protein here, I'm going to add in a can of beans. Today I'm using navy beans because that's what I happen to have on hand, but chickpeas would be great. Black beans, cannelloni beans, they would all work really well here as well. And then I'll add in a few fresh veggies here as well. I'll prep and chop some peppers of different colors. I'm going to add in some roughly chopped romaine lettuce, which might seem a little bit odd for a pasta salad, but fresh lettuce in a pasta salad is actually pretty good. I've also done this with arugula, and that works really well. And then a large handful of cherry tomatoes. And I'm going to add these in raw, but I've also roasted them in the oven with a little bit of garlic and olive oil. That would make them really awesome as well. Today we're just going to keep it simple. And then a big handful of fresh basil leaves that I'm going to stack up here and then really roughly chop. I kind of like to get big bites of basil in this salad, so I'm not going to do a really fancy chiffonade or anything, just roughly hack these up family style. Now I'll give this a preliminary mix here just to get everything combined before you add in the dressing. I find it's easier to get it really well mixed while it's fairly dry here. I'm also going to add in some cheese at this stage. Today I'm going to put in feta cheese, but any sort of crumbly cheese would work here really well, like a cotija, Stilton, goat's cheese, whatever you like. And finally in with the dressing that we made earlier. We'll give this another good whisk just to make sure that everything combines really well, and then we'll pour that over the salad. We'll give this a really good stir. And I'm just going to pour this out onto a big serving platter and then chop up a baguette, and that's dinner. Simple and healthy. One final touch you can do here is to drizzle a little bit of balsamic vinegar or a balsamic glaze over the top. Gives it a nice bit of a freshness. You could also squeeze on some lemon juice or lime juice, and that would have a similar effect here. Okay, so let's take a look at what this meal cost to make. The pasta noodles, the honey, and the balsamic vinegar made up a reasonable portion of the total cost. And this could be adjusted up or down depending on what type of balsamic vinegar you're using and also what kind of honey you're using. Both can be quite expensive and fairly fancy, but there are also grocery store brands of both items, so while they might not be quite as good, would certainly be suitable for a salad dressing like this. And then the frozen and canned items were the next largest cost, although really not that significant. And then finally the fresh vegetables and the cheese made up the last portion of the costs here. Now I've listed the costs for buying the lettuce and the basil, but those actually came out of the garden here at our house, so those costs are a little harder to calculate. I guess you could say they're free, but that's not considering the time it took to grow them and tend them and water them and everything. So like I said, it's fairly hard to calculate. And then in a week or so, we should have plenty of tomatoes coming in as well. So that would also bring the cost down overall. And this is a summer type salad, so it is intended to kind of take whatever is fresh coming out of the garden or whatever needs to get eaten up. So the total cost for this dish was $15.68. We got a good solid 6 portions out of this with some leftovers for lunch the next day. So that brings the total cost per portion down to $2.61. In terms of how long this took to make, well, there was almost no cooking involved. I guess a little under 10 minutes to boil the pasta. And then everything else is really just prep time, chopping up vegetables and things. So altogether that took about 15 minutes to chop and prep everything that went into the salad. So I think we can safely call this one a 30-minute meal. Anyway, that's today's dish. Sweet, salty, fresh, cool. It's a great summertime meal when you don't want to cook. It's also a great side dish for barbecue or a burger. I hope you give this one a try. If you enjoyed this video or you found it useful, please do hit that like button. And as this is a fairly new channel, I'd very much appreciate you subscribing so I can keep bringing you more videos. Thanks very much. Talk soon.